Bhante Anoma, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. It's been a few years since I came here. Buddha Dhamma Mandala Society. See, now it's quite beautiful. Our renovation work has been done. Tonight, I have to give a talk on how to develop the 7 Bojjhangas. This is a very important topic. And most of the suttas and the Bojjhangas are found in the Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 46, called the Bojjhanga Samyutta. Bojjhanga is translated as factors of enlightenment or factors of Bodhi or Bodhi factors. In the Sutta 46.8, it is said, those who have undertaken the 7 Bojjhanga have undertaken the Aryan path leading to the complete destruction of suffering. So if you practice the 7 Bojjhangas, this is the Aryan path to the complete destruction of suffering. But this is also said of the Aryan Eightfold Path. Aryan Eightfold Path consists of 8 factors which if you develop will also end with complete destruction of suffering. So these two are quite related, the 7 Bojjhanga and the Aryan Eightfold Path. The difference is on the stress on the different factors. In the Sutta 46.3, it is described how to practice the Bojjhanga. It is said that first you must visit or draw close to an Arya or a Sappurisa. An Arya is one of the 8 Aryans. The 8 Aryans have attained stages of enlightenment. First path, first fruit, second path, second fruit, third path, third fruit, and fourth path, fourth fruit. The fourth fruit, Arya, is a fully enlightened being, and that is the Sammasambuddha, the Buddha who wants to teach the whole world the Dhamma. And then it also includes the Pacceka Buddha. We find from the suttas, we can say that 99.99% of Buddhas are Pacceka Buddhas. Sometimes, like in the Isigili Sutta, the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha said, there was a time outside Rajagaha, this hill called Isigili Hill, there were 500 Pacceka Buddhas there, but none of them wanted to teach. But of course, it's not that they cannot teach. They are as knowledgeable as any other Buddha, including the Sammasambuddha. Only thing they're not willing to teach. But I guess if you went individually to any one of them and asked them the Dhamma, they would explain to you. So you can find many Pacceka Buddhas at one time. But Sammasambuddha is very difficult to find. The Buddha said one night he did not sleep. He spent the whole night contemplating the past. He contemplated 91 world cycles, and he saw there were only 6 Sammasambuddhas in a long period of time, 91 world cycles, only 6 Sammasambuddhas willing to teach the Dhamma. But then later books talk about 24 Buddhas, 28 Buddhas, 88 Buddhas in the Mahayana. All those are later. In the suttas, the Buddha only mentioned 6 Sammasambuddhas. But he mentioned the Buddhas of other Buddhas who are Pacceka Buddhas. So first, you have to draw near an Arya or a Sappurisa. A Sappurisa is a person who knows the Saddhamma. Saddhamma is the true Dhamma. Sappurisa is a true man, the true man who knows the true Dhamma. A Sappurisa is also an Arya. So when you draw near this Arya or Sappurisa. Other suttas say you should examine him. Examine him to make sure that he is possibly an Arya. And how do you do so? You see whether he keeps his sila, moral conduct. You see whether he has a calm personality. If he's calm, then he has samadhi. He's not a monkey mind, scatterbrain. And then when you talk to him, you can know whether he has wisdom or not. Yeah. So if he has these three things, sila, samadhi, panya, this is basically also the Aryan Eightfold Path. Then you can have some trust in him. And then the sutta says you also see whether there is greed, hatred and delusion in him. If he does not have greed, hatred and delusion in him, then also it's possible that he's an Arya. Then you show respect. After you show respect, then he is inclined to teach you. So when he teaches you the Dhamma, it should be the true Dhamma. And then after you listen to the true Dhamma, you should remember that Dhamma and think it over. During the Buddha's time, there were no books, not like nowadays. So when they hear the Dhamma, they have to remember it because they might only hear it once. Yeah. So if they are not sure, maybe they have to ask the monk again to repeat. Then after that, during the Buddha's time, they had to memorize the suttas. If you don't memorize, it goes in one ear and goes out the other ear, you would have forgotten about it. So in the Buddha's days, the Buddha's monk disciples, nun disciples, laymen, laywomen, all had to spend a lot of time memorizing the suttas. But nowadays, if we listen to the SD card or the cassette, the CDs, no more cassette, then you listen to it every day. Every day you listen to it, at least sticks in the mind. If you don't listen to it every day, very soon you forget. Yeah. So the Buddha said, whenever a monk thus recollects the Dhamma, thinks it over, on that occasion the enlightenment factor of sati is aroused by the monk. On that occasion the monk develops the enlightenment factor of sati. On that occasion the enlightenment factor of sati comes to fulfillment by development in the monk. So you see, this is the first Bojjhanga. We must have the opportunity to listen to the Sat Dhamma, the true Dhamma. And then you must remember it, and you must think it over. That is how you practice sati. Now, what is Sat Dhamma? What is the true Dhamma? Because nowadays our Dhamma is very rojak. So we have to be clever. We have to be smart. Nowadays, everything we do have to be smart. So the Buddha said that his true Dhamma will last 500 years. Later books, they talk about 5,000 years. But in the suttas, the Buddha said his true Dhamma will last 500 years. Not that after 500 years you don't have the true Dhamma, but what the Buddha meant was after 500 years, false Dhamma will appear. And the Buddha mentioned this in several suttas. In the Kassapa Samyutta, chapter 16, I think, of the Samyutta Nikaya, 16.13, the Buddha said, the true Dhamma will not disappear as long as the false Dhamma has not emerged. But when the false Dhamma arises, the Buddha said, then the true Dhamma will disappear. And the Buddha said, it is the foolish people here who cause the false Dhamma to appear. He was talking to the monks, to the Sangha. So what he meant was, it is the Sangha, it is the monks themselves who create the false Dhamma in the future. Future monks will create the false Dhamma. And that will slowly cause the true Dhamma to disappear. Also, the Buddha mentioned in another sutta in the Sangyutta Nikaya 20.7, Upama Sangyutta, the Buddha said that in the future the false Dhamma will appear, and then people will find it difficult to distinguish between the true Dhamma and the false Dhamma. And because people find it difficult to distinguish, then people will not have that interest in the Dhamma. The Buddha also gave a simile of false gold. The Buddha said nowadays there is no false gold, everybody wants to buy gold. But one day false gold will appear. And when false gold appears, people find it difficult to distinguish between true gold and false gold, and then people will be alarmed, dare not buy. So, since the Buddha said the true Dhamma will last 500 years, we have to know what was the true Dhamma within that 500 years. And luckily, we have Emperor Asoka. Emperor Asoka lived about 250 years after the Buddha's passing away. And he had so much faith in the Buddha that he wanted the people to know the Buddha's teachings. So he got the words of the Buddha carved on stone pillars, and he erected these stone pillars on the roadside for people to read. And now, after over 2,000 years, archaeologists have dug up these stone pillars, and they find during Emperor Asoka's time, the Dhamma was only 5 Nikayas. Digha Nikaya, long discourses of the Buddha consisting of 34 suttas, long suttas. Majjhima Nikaya, consisting of 152 medium-length discourses. Sangyutta Nikaya, over 2,000 short discourses, topically arranged. And then Anguttara Nikaya, over 2,000 suttas, numerically arranged. And then the last one was the Khuddaka Nikaya. Khuddaka means minor, smaller collection. But nowadays, they have kept adding books to it, so it has become a major collection. In Thailand and Sri Lanka, there are 15 books in the Khuddaka Nikaya. But in the Burmese tradition, in 1956, they had a Sangha council and they added 3 more books inside there. And all the monks knew that those 3 books were not the words of the Buddha. And yet they put those books there. So it shows how people keep adding the books. So you investigate the books in the Khuddaka Nikaya, you find only 6 can truly be accepted because it conforms to the earlier 4 Nikayas. These 6 books are the Dhammapada, Udana, Itivuttaka, Sutta Nipata, Theragata, Therigata. Only these 6 books are reliable. So that is the true Dhamma, the 5 Nikayas, earliest 5 Nikayas of the Buddha. Then we find exactly 500 years after the Buddha's passing away, we have later books emerging like the Mahayana Sutras and the Abhidhamma and commentaries. 900 years after the Buddha's passing away, the Visuddhimagga appeared. Nowadays, some monks teach according to the Visuddhimagga. You find in these later books that they have some Dhamma, that is why people are attracted to it. But at the same time, they add a little Adhamma. And that little Adhamma, they say things that the Buddha did not say. For example, in Mahayana Sutras, they talk about the 7th and the 8th consciousness. But in the early Buddha's discourses, he only talked about 6th consciousness. So they created the 7th and the 8th consciousness in Mahayana. And then similarly with the Abhidhamma. In Theravada, we have the 7 books of the Abhidhamma. The first 3 or 4 is okay, it conforms to the early suttas. But the later, the last 3 books, they say a lot of things that the Buddha did not say. Talk about Kalapas, Javana, Bhojjhanga, Patisandhi Citta, Chutti Citta, and all these things that the Buddha did not say. But then, these people who wrote these later books, saying a lot of things that the Buddha did not say, they did not study the words of the Buddha in the 5 Nikayas enough. If they had studied enough, they would know in the Digha Nikaya, Sutta 29, the Buddha said his teachings of the holy life are perfect and complete. If the Buddha's teachings are perfect and complete, it means you cannot make it more perfect. You cannot make it more complete. The Buddha also said that if you think you want to add to his words, you don't see his Dhamma. If you don't see his Dhamma, you don't have right view. You're not an Arya. Only when you see the Dhamma, vision of the Dhamma, which is Dhamma Chakku, Fa Yen, only if you see the Dhamma, understand the Dhamma, you have right view. So all the people who wrote the later books, they are not Arya, according to the Buddha. If they appreciated the suttas of the Buddha, they would know that it's more than enough. Since the Buddha said that his teachings are perfect and complete, it also means that he's the top-class Buddha. You cannot find another Buddha whose teachings are superior to our Buddha Gautama. Because his teachings are perfect and complete. At the most, the best other Buddha you can find can only equal our Buddha Gautama. Cannot be better than our Buddha Gautama. And our Buddha Gautama is not only the best in the teaching and wisdom, he's also one of the greatest in psychic powers. In one of the suttas, the Buddha went to the Brahma heavens to teach Mahabrahma. Mahabrahma in the Rupa Loka and the Rupa form realm has great psychic powers. Some of these Mahabrahma, their light can shine up to 100,000 worlds so far. So when the Buddha came to teach him, he was not impressed by the Buddha. But then the Buddha showed him psychic powers. He was astounded. And he said something which was also, he said, he has never seen another ascetic whose psychic powers are so great like this Samana Gautama. Buddha used to be called Samana Gautama. Mahabrahma has a long life. Such a long life that he has seen many ascetics with psychic powers fly up to the Brahma heaven and other devas also. But he had never seen anybody with such great psychic powers as our Buddha Gautama. So, a lot of people don't appreciate that we have one of the best Buddhas ever available. Don't appreciate his teachings, his suttas. Like in the Mahayana, they say our Pali suttas are Xiao Cheng, small vehicle, Pariya. They are great. And similarly, for those who praise the Abhidhamma, they say the Abhidhamma is the highest teaching. Suttas are inferior, so they don't want to spend time studying the sutta. It's a great shame because they never investigated properly. So that is the first Bojjhanga, Sati Bojjhanga. Then coming to the second Bojjhanga, which is Dhamma Vichaya, investigation of the Dhamma. The Buddha said, dwelling thus mindfully, he investigates that Dhamma with wisdom, examines it, makes a discrimination of it. Whenever a monk dwelling thus mindfully, investigates that Dhamma with wisdom, examines it, makes a discrimination of it, on that occasion, the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma, Dhamma Vichaya, is aroused by the monk. On that occasion, the monk develops the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma. On that occasion, the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma comes to fulfillment by development in the monk. So this is how you practice the second Bojjhanga. After you have learned the Dhamma, you must investigate it with wisdom. Examine it carefully. Now, I will explain these two. Sati, if you look up the word sati in the Pali dictionary, you find it comes from a word which means to remember. The basic meaning of sati is to remember, to recollect. In 9 suttas, the Buddha defines sati in this way. A person has sati when he remembers what he said and he did a long time ago. So we translate sati as mindfulness, but it has to do with remembering. So when we meditate, we train our mind to be mindful. And if you meditate correctly, according to the suttas, you should attain the 4 jhanas, because Sama Samadhi, right concentration, is defined as the 4 jhanas. In the Aryan Eightfold Path, Samasati, right mindfulness, is defined as contemplating body, feelings, mind, and Dhamma. So, the meaning of Samasati is to remember, to put your mind on 4 things, to contemplate 4 things. Because if you don't remember, our mind will start going out through the 6 senses, to see, to hear, smell, taste, touch, and think. So, it is the natural tendency of the mind to pay attention to the 6 sense bases. We like to be entertained by the things of the world, to watch the TV, internet, to hear rock music, etc. So, if we pay attention to the objects of the 6 senses, it's not going to give us wisdom. For example, you watch football, Premier League football. Wow, very exciting. Put all your attention there, very mindful. But does it give you wisdom? No. So that's why we have to remember to pull our attention from the things of the world to the 4 objects. The Buddha said the objects of the 6 senses is Mara's bait. Buddha said the Mara is like a fisherman. He put out 6 baits, 6 hooked baits, baited hooks. So the fish is hungry, comes to eat the bait, get caught. In the same way, this Satan, Mara, is tempting us with beautiful sights, nice sounds, fragrant smells, good food, etc. So the Buddha said it's very dangerous to go out to the 6 sense objects. Now, of the 4 objects of sati, body, feelings, mind, and Dhamma, there are some books that translate Dhamma as phenomena or mind objects. But when we see suttas like this Bojjhanga, Sati Bojjhanga, then we know Dhamma does not refer to mind objects. Dhamma refers to the Buddha's teachings. Because of the 4 objects of sati, the most important is Dhamma. Why is Dhamma most important? Because in the Anguttara Nikaya 5.26, it is said that there are 5 occasions of liberation, 5 occasions when a person becomes an arahant. The first one is listening to the Dhamma. When he listens to the Dhamma and he understands, then he attains enlightenment. For example, when the Buddha was gathering disciples, he went to these jatilas because they cultivated the 4 jhanas. After he managed to convert them, after several weeks, Then they became his monk disciples. The Buddha preached to them the Adita Pariyaya Sutta, the fire discourse, because they like to pray to fire. Hearing just one discourse, all of them attain arahanthood. So, because their minds were very clear. So, this is the most common one, listening to the Dhamma. The second one is teaching the Dhamma. When somebody is teaching the Dhamma, he has to think and understand the Dhamma before he can teach. So, when he's teaching and he understands the Dhamma, there's a second time he becomes enlightened. A person becomes enlightened. The third one is when he repeats the Dhamma. During the Buddha's days, I said they have to repeat the Dhamma. As they repeat the Dhamma in their own language, they understand. And the more times they repeat, the more times the better they understand. It's just like nowadays, if you listen to the Dhamma talks on the SD card or whatever, if you listen once, you catch certain points. The second time you listen, you catch more points. The third time you listen, you catch even more points. And you're wondering why you didn't notice those points earlier. Because you didn't listen so many times. So the more times we listen, the more we understand. That is the third occasion. The fourth occasion, when he's reflecting on the Dhamma. After you have heard the Dhamma, when you have time, you reflect on it, whether it's true or not, whether you can see it in everyday life. And the fifth occasion is when a person is meditating. So out of the 5 occasions when a person becomes enlightened, 4 of them have to do with Dhamma. And this Dhamma refers to the Buddha's teachings, not to mind objects. So that is Dhamma. By the way, although these 5 occasions are mentioned as occasions of liberation, I believe they are also occasions for attaining the various paths and the fruits. For example, to get the lowest path, the first path, you have to listen to the Dhamma and understand. And then when you understand, you see the Dhamma means you have right view. Once you have right view, you have entered the stream, become an Arya. And then the suttas say that when you attain the path, the same lifetime, the wisdom will mature, it will turn to fruit before you die. Not immediately. Abhidhamma says immediately, but suttas say after some time. Because suttas say that you can make offerings, dana, to a path attainer, to a fruit attainer. But if a person attains the path and immediately it becomes the fruit, before you can say hello, he already turned to fruit. So how to make offering to a path attainer? So that's why you find, if you know the suttas well, you can see the contradictions between the later books and the earlier suttas. In the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 43, it is said that there are 2 conditions for right view. Once you get right view, it means you have understood the Dhamma, attained the Dhammacakku, vision of the Dhamma, and that means you have attained the stream entry. Stream entry is also the first path, the lowest Arya. So in Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 43, it is said there are 2 conditions for right view. One is the voice of another. The second is focused attention. The voice of another means the voice of another person teaching you the true Dhamma. Either the suttas themselves or teachings based on the early suttas. So this only is mentioned only 2 conditions, the 2 basic conditions necessary for attaining stream entry is the voice of another teaching you the true Dhamma. And then when you listen, you must focus attention. Why is focus attention important? It's explained in Sutta 46.38. The Buddha said, when monks, a noble disciple listens to the Dhamma with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing his whole mind to it, on that occasion the 5 hindrances are not present in him. On that occasion, the 7 Bojjhanga go to fulfillment by development. So you see, when you listen to the Dhamma with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing the whole mind to it, at that time the 5 hindrances are absent. The 5 hindrances are 5 things that obstruct wisdom, that make us blind, that hinder right view. If you have the 5 hindrances blocking you, you cannot attain stream entry. But the Buddha says, when you listen to the Dhamma, you pay full attention, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing your whole mind to it. At that time, the 5 hindrances fall to a low level, and they don't obstruct you. At that time, you can understand. And he even says that the 7 Bojjhanga go to fulfillment. That means the conditions are right for you to attain this right view, stream entry. That's why it's important when you listen to the Dhamma to pay full attention. So we find that in the suttas, many people came to listen to the Dhamma for the first time, and then they attain stream entry. Afterwards, I will mention it's not that difficult as some people think. But however, there are some people, when they listen to it the first time or the second time, they don't attain. They are not so intelligent. If you are very intelligent, you catch it immediately. It's like cracking a joke. Somebody cracks a subtle joke. Some people are very sharp. Immediately they ha ha ha. And then the second type of person, he has to think it over for some time. Maybe later he will ha ha ha. Another person is scratching his head. At night when he's about to go to sleep, suddenly he catch the point. He'll ha 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 and then fall asleep happily. The 4th type of person, the next day or so, he scratches his head, also cannot understand. So it's the same with people who listen to the Dhamma. There are some people, they listen very fast, they catch and attain stream entry. Second time, they have to take some time, keep on listening. Maybe after they finish listening to the 5 Nikayas, then they get an overall picture, and they attain right view, stream entry. The 3rd time, they have to listen several times, the 5 Nikaya. Then after a few years of patient labor, then he understands, attains right view. The 4th time is very blur. So he listens, he cannot penetrate. So after a while, he gives up, no more interest. So because of that, the Buddha said, some people have to cultivate the 2nd Bojjhanga. 2nd Bojjhanga is investigation of the Dhamma. Take more time to investigate the Dhamma. But sooner or later, you will understand. If you have the interest, you will listen to the Dhamma, the 5 Nikayas every day. Why do we have to investigate the Dhamma? The Buddha explained in Sutta 56.18. The Buddha said in the 4 Aryan truths, in other words, in the Dhamma, there are innumerable nuances, innumerable details, innumerable implications. In other words, there are different shades of meaning in the Dhamma when you study the Dhamma. Many details and many hidden meanings which you don't catch immediately. You need to take time to constantly reflect on it and keep on listening, and then the effort will be rewarded. There is in the Sotapatti Sangyutta, it talks about 4 conditions of stream entry. Earlier we heard 2 conditions, but now this one says 4 conditions. It's called Sotapatti Yangani. 4 conditions for stream entry. The first one is association with the Sappurisa, associating with the true man. Second is listening to the true Dhamma. The third one is focused attention. The 4th one is Dhamma nu Dhamma Pati, practice of the Dhamma in accordance with the Dhamma. That means as you listen to the Dhamma and as you understand, You practice what you can. Yeah. But of course, for the lower stage, the most important is to keep on listening to the Dhamma based on the the 5 Nikayas. Keep on listening every day and investigate it, think about it, reflect on it, etc. That is the most important work you have to do. Then after some time, you will understand.